Hello everyone. Tonight, we begin with a breath, a gentle breath that rises like mist in the still air of a moonlit forest. You are here, and that is enough. Imagine this a single flame flickering on a wooden altar. No noise, no distractions, only a silent space where the soul gently knocks, asking to be remembered. That is how our journey begins. The subject we're about to explore, Buddhism, is simple in its truth, yet deep like the ocean. Many have heard of it. Some may even practice it. But few have paused long enough to let its quiet wisdom soak deep into the bones. Because the truth is, Buddhism doesn't ask you to believe anything. It invites you to look clearly. And in today's world of constant scrolling, constant reaching, constant noise, that can be surprisingly difficult. So before you get too comfortable, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it there? Let's make this a space we share together across miles and time zones. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some gentle noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. We begin not with a God, nor with commandments etched in stone, but with a question as old as awareness itself. Why do we suffer? Buddhism starts there. In fact, all of it, every chant, every statue, every teaching begins in that quiet moment when someone somewhere whispered to themselves, "Is there more than this pain?" Buddhism is not a faith in the way most people understand religion. It doesn't ask you to worship. It doesn't even promise you heaven. Instead, it points a finger moonward and says, "Look for yourself." And that looking, that's where it gets interesting. Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world with no one to impress. No debt to the past. No fear of the future. Just this moment. This breath. That is the world the Buddha glimpsed. And from that glimpse, a path was born, not paved in stone, but worn smooth by the bare feet of millions over the centuries. So who was the Buddha? His name was Siddhartha Gautama, born over 2,500 years ago in what is now Nepal. But in truth, the Buddha is not a name, it is a title. It means the awakened one. An awakening is something all of us are capable of, not just one man beneath one tree. Siddhartha was a prince. He had everything: comfort, luxury, and protection. His father, wanting to shield him from the harsh realities of life, surrounded him with youth, health, beauty, and pleasure. But as we'll see in the next part of our journey, even the walls of a palace cannot hold back the questions that live in the human heart. Before we get there, though, let's pause, because this moment right now is the heart of Buddhism. You listening in the quiet of your room may feel tired, overwhelmed, or even lost. But in this very breath, you are already on the path. The Buddha never asked anyone to believe in anything supernatural. He asked people to see clearly, that suffering exists, that it has a cause, that it can end, and that there's a path leading to that end. These are not theories. These are experiences. Moments of insight that unfold not in books, but in the silence of everyday life. Buddhism is a religion of experience, not of faith. And that makes it deeply personal. Some nights, that means sitting with your sadness without trying to fix it. Other nights, it means smiling at the simple joy of a warm cup of tea. There are no ceremonies required, just a willingness to return again and again to the present. Many religions promise salvation. Buddhism offers something quieter: liberation. Liberation from confusion, from craving, from the endless cycle of wanting, having, losing, and wanting again. And how do we get there? Gently. like leaves drifting downstream. There's no race, no competition, only this moment, and the next, and the next. So tonight, as we begin this 30-part journey, I invite you to listen, not for answers, but for something deeper recognition, a remembering of something you already know, a truth that sits patiently inside you, waiting for silence. You may fall asleep during this series. That's okay. That's part of the practice. You may feel emotions rise. Let them. You may even forget parts, but the peace that sinks into your bones will remain. Let this be a soft beginning, like mist, like morning light before the sun. We'll walk gently together, because the story of Buddhism is not a history lesson, it's a mirror. In each section, each teaching will reflect something back to you, not to analyze, but to simply receive. Tonight, we are not trying to understand Buddhism, we are experiencing it. The quiet lingers, and now we walk a little further. Imagine a boy wrapped in silk and privilege, surrounded by lotus ponds and music. His name is Siddhartha, a prince, a son, a life designed to be perfect. But something is missing. You've felt it before, haven't you? That strange ache even in the middle of comfort. When everything outside seems fine, yet something inside whispers, there must be more than this. Siddhartha felt that too. He was born into the Shakya clan, into wealth and power. His father, King Shuddhadana, wanted to shield him from pain, suffering, and aging. The boy was raised in a paradise of beauty. No old age, no sickness, no death was allowed near him. The palace gates did not just keep dangers out, they also kept reality out. And yet the mind always finds its own doors. Even surrounded by laughter, Siddhartha's heart stirred. A deep sense of unease began to grow, not a dramatic rebellion, but a quiet confusion. Why do I feel incomplete? Why does joy seem to fade so quickly? Why does my heart sometimes feel heavy, even when my hands are full? These were not questions taught to him. They were born in silence, as they often are. And one day, Siddhartha asked his charioteer to take him outside the palace grounds, just for a glimpse, just to see, just to know. What he encountered would change everything. This moment, this small act of looking, is something we all do. Every time we step away from distraction and ask, what's really happening here? We become like Siddhartha, brave enough to peek behind the veil. And what did he see? First, an old man hunched and trembling. Second, a sick man pale and writhing. Third, a corpse stiff and still. And fourth, a monk walking barefoot with eyes like still water. Each of these sights landed like a bell in the prince's heart. He had never seen aging, never known sickness. Death was a story until it stood before him. These weren't just facts of life. They were truths that cracked open everything he thought he understood. But it was the monk, the fourth sight, that held him. There was something about that figure walking so calmly through the chaos, not running from pain, not grasping for pleasure, just walking with peace. It wasn't escape. It wasn't apathy. It was presence. The kind of presence that feels like a quiet fire. And so the seed of a new life was planted, not in revolt, not in fury, but in deep, tender longing. Maybe you felt it too. A moment when everything you thought would fulfill you began to feel hollow. You may have achieved success, gathered comforts, built something others admire. But inside, a small question remained. Why doesn't this feel like enough? That was Siddhartha's question. Not about renouncing life, but about understanding it. And understanding begins with honesty. So he returned to the palace. But something had shifted. The silks felt heavier. The music sounded distant. The walls no longer protected, they imprisoned. He didn't leave immediately. He didn't storm out. The decision took time. Because when you love people, when you have responsibilities, walking away isn't simple. But truth has a way of gently insisting. One night, he looked at his sleeping wife and newborn son. He loved them. That love was real. But he knew, if he stayed, he would never know who he truly was. And so he left, not to escape, but to seek. He shaved his head, put on robes, gave up his title, and walked out into the world alone. It wasn't dramatic. It was deliberate, quiet, steady. That's something I love about the Buddha's story. It's not a tale of grand battles or epic miracles. It's a story of silence, of questions, of looking honestly. And tonight, maybe you find yourself in a similar place. Not a palace, perhaps, but maybe you're surrounded by comfort, and yet something feels incomplete. You don't need to leave your life behind. You don't need to change your name. But you might, like Siddhartha, begin to look at suffering, to look at aging, to look at impermanence, not to fear them, but to understand them. The Buddha's journey began not with belief, but with noticing. And that noticing, gentle, patient, honest, is the first step on the path. So tonight, ask yourself, what am I not seeing? Where am I clinging? What am I ready to question? Let those questions sit with you. You don't have to answer them now. Just listen. Because sometimes the most sacred step you can take is simply looking out the gate. The gate has opened, and now we walk with Siddhartha, not as a prince, but as a seeker. He steps barefoot onto soil that was once foreign to him. No guards, no jewels, no silk robes, just the earth and the sky, and a question burning quietly in his chest. What is suffering? Where does it come from? And can it end? These were no longer ideas to him. They were threads he had to follow with his whole being. So Siddhartha wandered. He traveled the dusty roads of northern India, moving from teacher to teacher, forest to forest. And wherever he went, he listened to sages, to mendicants, to holy men deep in meditation. He tried everything. There were teachers who taught him philosophy, elaborate views of the soul and cosmos. There were mystics who offered powerful techniques, practices that stilled the body and bent the mind. And Siddhartha was a quick learner. He mastered every method he encountered. He reached deep states of meditation, transcended body, diminished thought, melted into silence. But still, the ache remained. He was calmer, more focused, but not free. Because freedom, he began to understand, wasn't about escaping experience. It was about meeting it fully. Many of the ascetics believed that pain was the path, that through extreme fasting exposure and denial of the body, one could burn away impurity. So, Siddhartha joined them. He lived on barely a grain of rice a day. He meditated through wind, rain hunger, and fever. His body became gaunt. His ribs pressed against skin. He came close to death. Still no liberation. And one day, while sitting by a riverbank, his strength failing, something small shifted. A memory. He remembered sitting as a child beneath a rose apple tree during a spring festival. He had been alone watching the play of sunlight on leaves. His breath had slowed. His mind had softened. And for a moment, everything felt perfect. Not ecstatic, not dramatic. Just still, peaceful, alive. It wasn't through pain. It wasn't through indulgence. It was through balance. That was the seed. And in that moment by the river, Siddhartha realized something profound. Enlightenment wasn't a prize to be won through self-torture. It wasn't hidden in the extremes. It was here, in presence, in this breath. This realization would later be called the middle way, a path between indulgence and self-mortification, a way of being that honors the body without clinging to it, that embraces joy without losing oneself in it. But this insight didn't come with fireworks. It came with hunger, weakness, stillness. Sometimes, the most powerful realizations arrive not with thunder, but as a whisper. And so, Siddhartha took food from a village girl who offered him milk and rice. To some of the other ascetics, this was betrayal. They thought he had failed, that he had returned to the world. But Siddhartha knew this was not retreat. This was the beginning, because to awaken one must be awake. You too may have tried extremes, perhaps not as an ascetic, but maybe you've tried pushing yourself too far, starving for success, denying your needs to prove your worth, holding in pain to appear strong. And maybe, like Siddhartha, you're beginning to wonder, is this helping? Is this peace? The middle way isn't just a teaching, it's an invitation to stop swinging wildly between control and chaos, to find the quiet riverbank within yourself, to rest there, even just for a moment. That's the beauty of the Buddha's journey. It reminds us that liberation doesn't require extraordinary conditions. It doesn't need perfect weather, or a mountain cave, or sacred robes. It only needs a willingness to see clearly, to sit with the breath, to soften around our own suffering. Siddhartha didn't give up because the practices were hard. He gave up because they weren't true for him. And in that honesty, a new kind of courage was born. He walked alone to a grove in Bodh Gaya near the banks of the Naranjara River. There, beneath the wide branches of a fig tree, he spread a handful of grass for a seat, and he made a quiet vow. Let only my skin, sinews, and bones remain. I will not rise from this seat until I have found the end of suffering. Not a cry of ego, not a boast, but a vow born of deep clarity. No more seeking outward, no more punishing the body, no more clinging to ideas. Only this breath, this moment, this seat. The Buddha-to-be was ready, and perhaps in your own quiet way, you are too. Ready not for a sudden transformation, but for an honest meeting with yourself. That is where the path truly begins. Under the tree, in silence, in stillness, just you and the question. Night falls softly on the grove in Bodh Gaya. The air is still, and the world slows down. Siddhartha sits beneath the Bodhi tree. His legs are folded, his spine straight as a flame. His hands rest gently in his lap. His breath flows like a quiet river. And now the final chapter of his seeking begins not outward, but inward. He doesn't move. He doesn't argue with his thoughts. He doesn't run from what arises. He simply stays. You've done this too, in your own way. Maybe not for days beneath a tree, but in a moment of stillness. In the middle of your day, or late at night, when something in you whispered, just be here. This is meditation, not a trick, not a performance, but a return. Siddhartha didn't try to force peace. He didn't push thoughts away. He simply observed. And what came? Everything. Memories, doubts, temptations, visions, fears. Each one rose like smoke and passed like wind. This, in Buddhist tradition, is the moment when Mara appears. Mara is not a demon in the way we often imagine. He's not a creature outside. He's the force of distraction, the embodiment of illusion, the whisper of not good enough, you'll fail. This is pointless. And Mara came with his full army. Fear, desire, pride, doubt. He offered Siddhartha pleasure. He threatened him with death. He tempted him with power, but Siddhartha didn't resist with violence. He didn't shout or fight. He simply saw the illusions for what they were, and with each breath they passed. This is the power of presence. You don't have to destroy every fear. You just have to see it clearly. The mind's illusions fade when held in the light of awareness. And then, according to tradition, Mara made one last move. He said, "Who do you think you are to seek awakening? Who will speak for you?" And Siddhartha quietly, without a word, reached his right hand toward the earth. He touched the ground. And the earth itself, the stories say, bore witness, not with words, but with silence, with truth. That moment is known as the earth-touching mudra, the gesture of calling the earth to witness. You can try it now if you like. Place one hand gently on your knee, the other touching the ground. Feel the support beneath you. That gesture says, "I am here. I belong." This moment is enough. It's not about claiming worth. It's about remembering it, because every one of us beneath the fears and thoughts is already enough. And as the night deepened, Siddhartha stayed. He watched the rising and falling of thoughts, the nature of craving and clinging, the endless wheel of birth and death, suffering and desire. And then in the deep stillness just before dawn, clarity, not an idea, not a revelation from above, but a seeing, a direct knowing. He saw the truth of suffering. He saw its cause, craving, grasping ignorance. He saw its end not in heaven, not in escape, but right here in the cessation of craving. And he saw the path. 8 clear steps, not rules, but a way to live, to breathe, to walk gently through the world. That moment is called enlightenment, awakening, nirvana. But those words can feel distant. So let's bring it closer. It's the moment you stop chasing. The moment you rest in the truth of what is. It's not a lightning bolt. It's a soft light slowly filling the room. And Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, the awakened one. But here's what's most beautiful. He didn't keep it for himself. He didn't disappear into bliss. He sat beneath that tree for 7 more weeks, absorbing and resting, letting the truth settle. And then he stood and walked back into the world to teach, to share, not as a god, not as a savior, but as a friend, a guide, one who had walked through fire and now walked with peace. Tonight, maybe you feel far from peace. That's okay. You don't have to reach enlightenment tonight. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay, like Siddhartha under the tree, not running, not fixing, just seeing, just being. The Buddha's journey is not about escaping the world. It's about waking up within it. And the good news, that same awakening is possible in you, in the quiet, in this breath, in the space you're sitting in now. So let's sit together silently for just a few moments. You, me, the Buddha, all beings, under one wide open sky. Everything is already here. Dawn had broken, and for the first time, the sun rose not just on the world, but on a man fully awake within it. The Buddha, now gently radiant, did not glow like the gods of mythology. His light was not from fire. It was from clarity, from the absence of confusion, from the peace that comes when craving no longer drives every breath. But peace, as we learn again and again, is not always easy to carry back into the world. The Buddha had found the answer to the deepest question. Yet the question now became, would anyone be able to hear it, not just with ears, but with the heart? So he sat in silence, reflecting. Who could understand this? This path was not about worship or sacrifice. It was not about pleasing gods or winning favors. It was a path of insight, of looking directly at suffering and seeing through it. Who could accept that the source of suffering was not something outside, but the grasping within? Who would be ready to let go? In this moment, legend says, Brahma, the great god of the Hindu pantheon, appeared and bowed before the Buddha. And in reverent tones, he said, "There are those with only a little dust in their eyes. Please, for them, teach." And so, the Buddha stood, not because he needed to be followed, but because he could not turn away from compassion. He began walking barefoot with a calm smile toward the deer park in Sarnath, where 5 of his former companions were living. These were the same 5 who had turned away from him when he accepted the milk rice from the village girl. To them, his return might have seemed like failure. But the Buddha walked without pride, without need to convince, just presence. And when they saw him approach something in their hearts, recognized the change. There was no argument, no debate, just a quiet readiness to listen. The Buddha shared his first teaching, now known as the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the turning of the wheel of Dharma. He spoke not in riddles, but in clarity. He spoke of the 4 noble truths. First, there is suffering, dukkha, not because life is all pain, but because everything changes. What we love fades. What we avoid still finds us. What we crave always slips just out of reach. Second, the cause of suffering is craving, not desire itself, but the attachment to desire, the clinging, the hunger for what is not here. Third, there is an end to suffering. It's possible, not through escape, but through understanding, through letting go. Fourth, there is a path, a way of living that leads toward freedom, not in the clouds, but in everyday action, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. 8 simple words, but within them, an entire map for peace. Imagine being there, sitting under the soft shadows of trees, listening to a man who spoke with no pride, no anger, no demand. Just truth, wrapped in compassion. Something within you would soften. The 5 ascetics didn't argue. They listened, and something awakened in them too. They became the first monks, the first Sangha, the community of the path. And the Buddha kept walking. He walked for 45 years, from village to village, from kings to beggars, from young to old. He never charged a coin. He never built temples. He simply walked, taught, listened. He offered what he had found and let others come when they were ready. This was revolutionary. He accepted anyone regardless of caste, gender, age, background, because suffering does not discriminate, and so awakening must be for all. He taught householders and renunciants. He taught children and elders. He taught not with threats, but with stories, not with doctrine, but with questions. You may know some of these stories: the mustard seed, the poisoned arrow, the raft, each one simple, each one like a mirror. And through these teachings, something remarkable happened. People began to wake up, not in the way of sudden miracles, but like a dawn spreading softly across a sleeping land. And you are part of this, even now, 2,500 years later, sitting in your room, listening to this voice. You are in the presence of the Dharma, the truth that was spoken that day in the deer park. And the invitation is the same. You don't have to change the world tonight. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin seeing, begin softening, begin letting go. The Buddha never said, "Follow me." He said, "Be a light unto yourself." That light is already within you, waiting, breathing, alive. The Buddha did not settle in a palace. He did not crown himself with titles or surround himself with guards. He wandered, each step deliberate, each breath aware, each encounter a chance to listen and to offer what was true not as a prescription, but as a path. And that's how the Sangha grew. At first, it was just the 5 ascetics, then a few more, then hundreds, then thousands. Some wore robes and left their homes. Others remained in the world, fathers, mothers, traders, farmers living the Dharma in the rhythm of ordinary life. The Buddha made no distinction in the value of either path. Monks had their simplicity. Householders had their opportunity to cultivate compassion in the midst of chaos. And both were needed. There's a quiet beauty in that. No one was excluded. No one was too late. All were welcome to walk the middle way. The Buddha was not interested in creating a religion with rituals and dogma. He didn't ask people to worship him. In fact, he often discouraged it. He wasn't a god. He was a man who had seen through the illusions of suffering and chose to spend his life helping others do the same. Sometimes his teachings were direct. Sometimes they were wrapped in story. One day, a grieving mother named Kisa Gotami came to him, her dead child cradled in her arms, her voice trembling with pain. "Please," she begged, "bring my son back." The Buddha did not give her a lecture. He simply said, "Bring me a mustard seed from a house that has never known sorrow." She searched every home, and at each door, she heard a story. A mother lost, a father gone, a brother fallen, a wound not yet healed. By the end of her journey, she returned to the Buddha, not with the seed, but with a new kind of seeing. Suffering was not her burden alone. It was woven into the fabric of all lives. She placed her child's body down, and she began her healing. This is how the Buddha taught, with stories that opened hearts, with silence that held more truth than 1,000 words, with presence that reminded people of their own inner light. He once said, "I only point the way. You must walk the path." And so the teachings spread, without armies, without conquest, only through understanding, only through listening. The Sangha became not just a group, but a field of practice. Wherever people gathered to remember the Dharma, that place became sacred. A forest, a hut, a street corner. Even now you can feel it. This space we share in listening, that too is Sangha. In the midst of the Buddha's growing following, one story stands out as a reminder of his radical compassion. His cousin Devadatta tried to overthrow him. He plotted. He lied. He even attempted to kill the Buddha. And what did the Buddha do? He did not retaliate. He did not curse him. He held steady. Because anger only fuels more suffering, and compassion, even for those who harm us, is the true liberation. The Buddha's patience wasn't weakness. It was the deepest strength, the strength to remain unmoved by hatred and unshaken by praise. You too might encounter betrayal, cruelty, misunderstanding, and you may feel the fire rise inside you. That's natural. But the question the Buddha invites us to ask is, can I respond with clarity rather than reaction? Can I choose compassion not as a performance, but as an act of inner freedom? Each time you choose not to harden, each time you breathe into your pain rather than lash out, you walk the Buddha's path. And that path does not require robes, or foreign mantras, or special status. It only requires your presence, your willingness to see clearly, to love wisely, and to release gently. The Buddha taught that the Dharma is like a raft. Once it carries you across the river, You don't keep carrying it on your back. You lay it down, because the point is not the teaching itself, it's the transformation. It's the peace that comes when you no longer grasp. So tonight we walk with the Buddha, not behind him, not beneath him, but beside him, quietly, breathing, alive. You walk beside the Buddha, not in the dust of history, but in the quiet steps of your own life. He walked for 45 years, and still his feet never sought a throne. He wore the same simple robes, ate the same one meal a day, slept in forests and parks under trees, or in small huts offered by supporters. Why? Because his peace did not come from what he possessed. It came from what he no longer needed. Imagine that for a moment. A life without the constant pull of more. A mind not torn between yesterday and tomorrow. Just breath. Just presence. Just this. That was the life of the Buddha. And it was not only for him. He always said, Ehipassiko, come and see for yourself. No blind belief, no secret code, just an invitation. And what did he offer to those who came? He offered the path. He offered the mirror. He offered the truth that liberation is not a reward, but a release. And so people from every corner of society came to hear him. Princes and paupers, thieves and scholars, women and men, old and young. One of them was Angulimala, a feared bandit, a murderer, a man with a necklace of fingers from his victims. His name alone made villagers lock their doors. But the Buddha walked straight into his path. No fear, no judgment, just presence. And Angulimala, charging toward him, sword in hand, found that he could not catch him. The Buddha's walk was calm, but the murderer could not close the distance. He shouted, "Stop, monk!" And the Buddha, turning gently, said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." These words pierced deeper than any weapon, and something in the killer's heart cracked open. He fell to his knees. He wept, and he followed. He became a monk, a gentle one, a silent one, a reminder that even those we deem irredeemable are not beyond the reach of awakening. This is the power of the Dharma. It does not exclude. It transforms, not with punishment, but with presence. And this is why Buddhism is not a religion in the way some expect. There is no creator God. There is no final judgment. There is no eternal heaven or hell in the way many understand it. There is only the law of cause and effect. Karma, not a system of rewards and punishments, but a simple truth. What you think, what you say, what you do, it leaves a trace. It shapes your mind. It shapes your world. You plant anger, you reap restlessness. You plant kindness, you reap ease. The Buddha said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. This means your freedom is not dependent on fate or divine favor. It's in your own hands, in your own heart, in each breath. This is why in the early Sangha monks and nuns didn't chant prayers to gods. They chanted reminders, the 5 precepts, the 4 immeasurables, the reflections on impermanence. They didn't seek protection from outside. They trained the mind from within to see, to soften, to release. And tonight, that same training is possible for you. You don't need to shave your head. You don't need to renounce your life. You only need to begin seeing your life clearly. Notice your habits. Notice what feeds your suffering. Notice what lightens your heart. And gently, begin to lean toward the light, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. The Buddha did not say this path is easy. He said it is worthwhile. He said it is possible. He said it is here. So when you feel overwhelmed, when your mind races, when your heart aches, remember this. You can stop. You can breathe. You can begin again. And in that beginning, peace. Just like Angulimala. Just like the countless others who sat at the Buddha's feet not as sinners or saints, but as humans seeking relief. You and I are no different. The same pain, the same hope, the same path. The Buddha's teachings were like water, clear, still, and life-giving. And just like water, they took the shape of the vessel they were poured into. For the simple, he spoke in simple terms. For the learned, he offered subtle insight. But the core was always the same. Freedom begins when we see clearly, and suffering ends when we stop clinging. One of the most profound teachings he offered was on impermanence, Anicca. Everything changes. Nothing lasts. Not our joys, not our sorrows, not even the body we call home. To many, this sounds bleak, but to the Buddha, it was liberation. Because if everything changes, then suffering is not permanent. If everything is impermanent, then clinging is futile. And when clinging stops, peace enters. Imagine a hand holding tight to a rope. The tighter it holds, the more it burns. But if the hand opens even slightly, the pain begins to ease. This is the path. Not ripping the rope away, but softening the grip. Over and over again, he invited people to look, to see that the world is not solid, that every moment is in motion. The breath rises and falls. The heart opens and closes. Thoughts appear and dissolve. And if we chase them, we suffer. But if we watch them gently without grasping, we become free. The Buddha once asked a student, "If someone builds a fire and does not feed it, what happens?" "It goes out," the student replied. "And so it is with craving," said the Buddha. "When you do not feed it, it fades." This is not magic. It's mindfulness. It's the quiet power of attention. The Buddha called it sati, remembering. Not remembering the past, but remembering to return to this moment, again and again, to see what is, not what we want, not what we fear, just what is. And from that seeing, wisdom arises. He compared the mind to a lake. When the waters are muddy, we cannot see the bottom. But when we let the sediment settle, the truth appears. This is the gift of stillness, not escape, but clarity. And clarity does not require retreating to a forest. It can be found in washing dishes, in walking slowly, in speaking kindly, in listening deeply. Each act a doorway, each moment a path. The Buddha was once asked, "What do you and your monks do?" He replied, "We walk, we eat, we sleep." "But everyone does that," the man said. And the Buddha smiled. "Yes," he said, "but when we walk, we know we are walking. When we eat, we know we are eating." That is mindfulness. And that is awakening, not a lightning strike, but a slow unfolding. Like the sun rising over a quiet field, like a flower opening to the dawn. In the Buddhist path, there is no hurry. There is only presence. And each step, if taken with awareness, is already sacred. The Buddha once said, "Just as the great ocean has but one taste, the taste of salt, so too my teaching has one taste, the taste of freedom." This is what he offered. Not certainty, not dogma, but freedom. Freedom from confusion. Freedom from fear. Freedom from the endless tug of war within our own hearts. And it all begins with seeing, noticing, breathing, softening. When you look around your life, your relationships, your work, your thoughts, what are you holding on to? What are you clinging to that is already changing? And can you just for a moment loosen your grip? Feel the space that opens up. That space is the beginning of peace. That space is the taste of awakening, and it's already within you. Not as something to achieve, but as something to remember, something to return to. like the breath, like the stillness beneath the noise. Tonight the Buddha walks beside you still, not in stories alone, but in every mindful step you take, in every breath you meet with kindness, in every moment you choose presence over distraction. And with each of those moments, you awaken too. So much of our suffering begins not in what happens to us, but in how tightly we hold to what we believe should have happened. This is where the Buddha's second great teaching becomes medicine for the modern mind. Dukkha, often translated as suffering, but it runs deeper than that. It speaks of the unsatisfactoriness woven through even our most beautiful moments. That bittersweet ache when something good ends. The restlessness when we get what we want only to find it's not enough. The fear that joy may not last. The longing for things to be other than they are. The Buddha saw this clearly. He called it out not to frighten us, but to free us. Because what we name we can understand. And what we understand we can release. Imagine a traveler walking through a burning desert. He doesn't need someone to pretend the sand is cool. He needs someone to hand him water. This is the Dharma. Not sugarcoating, not distraction, but a cool, clear drink of truth. Yes, life contains suffering. Birth is painful. Aging is humbling. Sickness is hard. Death is inevitable. We lose what we love. We face what we fear. Even joy passes through our fingers like sand. But here's the tender paradox. When we stop demanding that life be free of suffering, we begin to suffer less. When we see dukkha not as punishment, but as part of the nature of things, we soften. We stop arguing with reality. We stop resisting what is. And in that softening, something beautiful begins. Space, breath, compassion for ourselves, for others, because we're all walking through this fragile world together. The Buddha didn't ask us to pretend everything is okay. He asked us to meet each moment with presence. He taught us that our resistance is the second arrow. The first arrow pain often comes from life itself, but the second arrow is the one we fire at ourselves. This shouldn't be happening. I can't take this. Why me? These are the arrows that wound deeper. But when we practice mindfulness, we begin to catch ourselves. We begin to pause. We begin to let go of the second arrow, and suddenly pain becomes more bearable. Grief becomes more tender. Fear becomes a doorway, not a wall. The Buddha taught that even suffering can be used on the path. He said, as a lotus grows from mud, so too can wisdom grow from suffering. So if tonight you carry a sorrow, if your heart feels heavy, if something is aching inside you, know that the path does not ask you to erase that pain. It asks you to turn toward it, gently, lovingly, like a parent sitting beside a crying child, not to fix them, but to hold them, to be with them, to whisper, it's okay to feel this. And slowly that pain shifts, it softens, it teaches. This is what it means to walk the middle way, not clinging to pleasure, not running from pain, but meeting each experience with presence, with kindness, with clarity. Even joy, when held lightly, becomes more luminous. Even sorrow, when not resisted, becomes more bearable. The middle way is not a tightrope. It is a spacious path. It allows for laughter. It allows for tears. It welcomes the fullness of being human. And through it all, the Buddha walks beside us, not as a savior, but as a mirror, reminding us of what we already carry within the seed of awakening, the capacity to be free, right here, right now. Not after the storm passes, but in the middle of the rain. You are not broken. You are becoming. And each breath brings you closer to remembering that. Let's stay with that breath now. Let's rest in it like a bird returning to its nest. Everything will pass. This moment is enough, and you are enough. Imagine the Buddha sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, not as a statue, not as a legend, but as a human being, thin from years of fasting, eyes soft from the storms he's seen, hands resting in his lap, not clenched, not reaching, just still. It was not peace that found him. It was peace that he allowed to arise. And that night, as the moonlight drifted through the leaves, something changed, not in the world, but in him. He saw the truth of suffering. He saw the endless cycles of birth and death. He saw how craving spins the wheel again and again. But he didn't turn away. He didn't recoil. He saw clearly and kept seeing, hour by hour, layer by layer, until all that remained was silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of understanding. And when the sun rose, so did he. Not as a god, not as a ruler, but as one who had awakened. This awakening is called Bodhi. It means to see with eyes that no longer distort, to know that life is fleeting, but not to fear it, to accept that pain exists, but not to be crushed by it, to feel desire, but not be enslaved by it. This is what the Buddha offered the world. Not an escape from reality, but an embrace of it, a way to live in this fleeting world with dignity, with peace, and with boundless compassion. He could have walked away. He could have stayed in the forest forever. But after 7 weeks of quiet reflection, he made a choice. He rose and began walking back into the world, to teach, to share, to help others see what he had seen. And his first stop, a deer park near Sarnath. There he found 5 former companions, the same ascetics who had once rejected him. At first, they tried to ignore him. They thought he had abandoned the path. But as he approached, they noticed something different. Not in his robes, not in his words, but in his presence. It was still, grounded, unshakable. They could feel it. And so, they listened. And in that quiet field, with birds in the trees and the scent of grass in the air, the Buddha spoke. For the first time since his awakening, he opened his mouth, not to persuade, not to convert, but to offer. He shared what he called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the setting in motion of the wheel of Dharma. He spoke of the 4 Noble Truths. He spoke of the middle way. He offered a path, not to heaven, not to wealth, but to freedom. And as he spoke, something shifted in those 5 men. They didn't just hear his words. They felt the truth of them in their own hearts. And one by one, they began to awaken. Not fully, not instantly. But like the sky before dawn, light began to grow. And so the Sangha was born. The community of seekers, not bound by blood or caste, bound only by shared aspiration, by a longing to understand, to awaken to live in peace. This was the Buddha's gift, not a religion of dogma, but a path of discovery, not a claim of truth, but a mirror for the truth inside you. And that mirror is still here, right now, in this very breath. You don't need a temple. You don't need a robe. You just need to stop, to listen, to ask gently, what is real? What is needed? What can I let go of? And with each answer, the path unfolds. This is the wheel the Buddha turned. Not a doctrine, a direction. Not an obligation, an opportunity. So let's turn with it. Let's walk quietly, like those first monks in the deer park. Let's receive the teachings, not just with the mind, but with the heart. Because the truth is not far. It is here, in stillness, in suffering, in joy, In every moment, we choose presence over distraction, compassion over fear, simplicity over clinging. In that choosing, we awaken. And so the Buddha's journey becomes our own. Now, the wheel has turned, not with thunder, but with grace. And with it begins a journey not upward into the heavens, but inward, into the quiet chambers of the heart. The Buddha's first teaching, his first gift to the world, was not a commandment, not a law, but a recognition that we suffer, that we cling, that we long for permanence in a world made of change. But he didn't leave us in that sorrow. He offered a path, a way through. And that path, he said, has 8 limbs, 8 ways of walking with presence and wisdom. He called it the Noble Eightfold Path. Not a ladder to climb, but a wheel to walk again and again. Each step nourishes the others. Each one circles back to truth. The first step is right view. It begins with seeing things as they are not through the fog of desire or fear. Right view is not belief. It's clarity. It's recognizing that suffering exists not as punishment, but as part of life, and knowing that freedom is possible, not through escape, but through understanding. The second step is right intention. This is the seed from which all our actions grow. It asks us, what moves you? Is it kindness or ambition? Is it craving or compassion? Right intention is the quiet resolve to live with care, to release ill will, to let go of harm. From there, we come to right speech. Words, the Buddha said, are powerful. They can build a world or burn it. Right speech is not silence. It is truthful, gentle, purposeful. It asks us to speak in ways that heal, not wound, to pause before reacting, to bless more than we blame. Then comes right action. Our hands become extensions of our heart. We do not steal. We do not kill. We do not abuse. But more than that, we choose to protect, to nurture, to serve. Even small acts, a door held, a meal shared, become holy. The fifth step is right livelihood. This is about the way we earn our bread. The Buddha taught that our work should not harm others, not in body, not in spirit. We are invited to choose paths that reflect our values, not just our desires, to make a living that lets others live too. Then comes right effort, not the frantic striving of ego, but the gentle persistence of the heart. Right effort means we water what is wholesome. We guard the mind from toxins. We keep returning to presence even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The seventh step is right mindfulness. This is the thread that runs through everything. To be awake to each moment. To walk knowing we are walking. To breathe knowing we are breathing. Noticing the body, the feelings, the thoughts without being consumed by them. Just watching, just allowing. And finally, right concentration. This is the still point, the place where the scattered mind gathers, where attention deepens, where silence grows roots. It's not about forcing the mind, it's about allowing it to settle, like a leaf floating down to a quiet pond. And when it does, we begin to see. This path, the Eightfold Path, is not a list to memorize. It's a way to live, a rhythm to return to, a compass pointing not to a place but to a presence. The Buddha didn't say you must be perfect. He said walk this path one step at a time, and if you stray, return, and if you fall, rise, and if you forget, begin again. Because each step is sacred. Each step taken with intention becomes part of your awakening. And you don't walk it alone. Even now as you listen, you walk beside all those who seek truth, all those who long for peace, all those who are learning like you how to live with tenderness. So let's take the next step together, in silence, in stillness, in the simple miracle of this moment, because the wheel is turning and we are already walking. Each step you take on this path brings you closer, not to some distant mountaintop, but to the truth of your own heart. This is the essence of Buddhism, not worship, not belief, but understanding. And from understanding, compassion flows. You see, the Buddha did not ask us to turn away from the world. He asked us to see it more clearly, to understand how suffering arises and how it can end. Not by controlling others, not by changing the world, but by softening the way we relate to it. That is the great shift. From grasping to opening, from controlling to allowing, from reacting to responding. This transformation begins inside. The Buddha often spoke of the three poisons of the mind: greed, hatred, and delusion. Three fires that keep us burning, restless, lost. And yet they're not enemies to be fought. They're energies to be understood, to be seen, and in that seeing to be transformed. Greed says, I need more to be happy. But look closer. Does the mind ever feel full? Does the heart ever say enough? We chase endlessly, but satisfaction never stays. It's like drinking salt water. The more we take, the thirstier we become. Hatred says, if I push this away, I'll be safe. But does anger ever make the heart lighter? Does resentment ever bring peace? No. It hardens us, closes us, builds walls where we need bridges. And delusion. It whispers, this will last forever. This is who you are. This is how it must be. But everything changes. Everything shifts. And when we forget this, we suffer. We cling to fading moments. We resist the new. But there's another way, a path of antidotes. To greed, we apply generosity, not only of things, but of spirit. To hatred, we apply loving kindness, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And to delusion, we apply wisdom. The wisdom that sees things as they are not how we wish them to be. This is the internal alchemy of the Dharma, turning poisons into medicine, darkness into light. Not through force, but through presence. So how do we practice this? The Buddha gave us many tools. Meditation is one. Not to escape the world, but to be more deeply in it, to sit with ourselves, to listen, to observe the breath, the thoughts, the emotions, like clouds passing across the sky. We don't chase them, we don't hold them, we just let them be. And over time, the storm begins to settle. The mud of the mind clears. And what was always there, but hidden, begins to shine. Clarity, peace, compassion. Another tool is the cultivation of the four immeasurables, qualities of the awakened heart. Loving kindness, may all beings be happy. Compassion, may all beings be free from suffering. Sympathetic joy, may all beings rejoice in others' happiness. Equanimity, may all beings live with peace, no matter what arises. These are not just words. They are practices, ways of living, ways of loving. They stretch the heart, expand our circle of care, and remind us that awakening is not a solitary journey. It is deeply relational. We do not wake up alone. We wake up together in how we speak, in how we touch each life we meet. And in those small moments, we realize something profound, that peace is not found at the end of the path. It is found in each step, walked with love. So tonight, as you sit in stillness, as you listen, breathe, and rest, let the teachings land gently in your heart. You don't need to remember every word. You only need to let go, to soften, to be here. This is enough. This is the path, and you are already walking it. Now let us turn more deeply inward, to a teaching so subtle yet so transformative, it can reshape the very way we experience ourselves. It is the teaching of anatta non-self. At first, this idea can seem unsettling. No self. Then who are we? What is it that feels joy, sorrow, hunger, or peace? But let us pause, not to reject or accept, but to explore. The Buddha did not say, "You do not exist." He said that what we often take as a self, a solid, permanent identity, is not what it seems. Imagine you're sitting beside a still lake. The water is clear, the sky reflects upon it. Then a breeze ripples the surface. The reflection shifts. Did the sky change? No, only the surface. In much the same way, our thoughts, memories, emotions, sensations, they rise and fall, shimmer and shift. But we cling to them and say, "This is me. This is who I am." But which version? The joyful you, the grieving you, the angry, hopeful, fearful, loving you. Each moment these identities arise and pass. What remains? Only awareness. Only the open space in which all of it unfolds. The Buddha used the metaphor of a chariot. Is the chariot the wheels, the axle, the seat, the reins? Each part plays a role, but nowhere can you point and say, that alone is the chariot. So too with the self. Body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These 5 aggregates make up our experience. But together, they do not form a fixed me. They are processes, not possessions, movements, not monuments. And when we realize this, not as an idea, but as a lived experience, something softens. We stop taking things so personally. Anger arises, and we don't say, "I am angry." We see there is anger. Sadness comes, and we don't collapse into it. We note sadness is present. There's space between the experience and the one observing. And in that space, freedom. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your past. You are not even the roles you play. Child, parent, partner, friend. These are garments. We wear stories we tell. Beautiful, meaningful stories. But not the whole of who you are. Beyond the stories, beyond the names, is the quiet witness, the clear light of awareness. The Buddha once asked, if you were to carry a burning torch in the dark, could it light another torch without losing its own light? Yes. And so he said, is the nature of this awareness. It gives, but is not diminished. It shines, but does not burn. And when we rest in that awareness, even for a moment we touch peace. We no longer need to protect the fragile ego. We no longer need to prove, defend, or grasp. We can meet each moment with ease, with humility, with open hands. This doesn't mean we disappear. It means we become vast, like the sky that holds both storm and sunlight. We can feel deeply without drowning. We can act wisely without needing applause. And most importantly, we can love without possession. Non-self does not erase love. It purifies it. It lets love flow free of fear and control. So tonight, let's rest in that space. Let go of the story. Let go of the name. Let go of the mask. And simply be breathing, aware, alive. This is not nothingness. It is everything exactly as it is, without needing to be more. Let the self fall silent, and let peace rise in its place. Let's stay here a little longer in this open space where the self softens and stillness breathes. Because the realization of non-self doesn't isolate us. It connects us more deeply. When you stop clinging to me and mine, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to see others not as objects in your story, not as threats or tools, but as fellow travelers, beings just like you seeking peace, hurting, hoping, stumbling forward. And this recognition gives rise to one of the most beautiful aspects of the Buddhist path: compassion, not pity, not obligation, but a natural outpouring of the heart. When the boundaries of ego fade, the heart expands. You feel what others feel, not as a burden, but as kinship. The Buddha called this Karuna, a tenderness that arises when you truly understand suffering. Because you've seen it in yourself, because you're no longer turning away. This is not a fragile emotion. It is fierce, steady, alive. Compassion is what turns wisdom into action. It's what led the Buddha to teach, to serve, to walk for miles barefoot so that others could taste freedom. But compassion isn't just for saints. It lives in you too, in every kind gesture. In every moment, you choose patience over pride. In every time you pause to listen, really listen. But compassion needs support. And that support is equanimity, Upekkha, a calm, spacious mind that doesn't collapse under pain or cling to pleasure. Without equanimity, compassion becomes overwhelming. We carry everything and burn out. With equanimity, we care deeply but wisely. We act but don't attach to outcomes. We love but let go. Think of equanimity as the wide riverbank and compassion as the flowing stream. Together, they make the heart whole. The Buddha often spoke of these four qualities, the four immeasurables, as the pillars of a boundless mind: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. They are not goals to chase. They are qualities to nurture. You might begin each day with a simple reflection: may all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from suffering. May I meet this moment with balance and peace. And let that be your prayer, not to the sky, but to the soul. You don't need to change the world, but you can change how you meet it, with softness, with clarity, with grace. You see, Buddhism is not a religion in the usual sense. It is not about worship. It is about relationship, how we relate to ourselves, to others, to this brief and precious life. You don't need to believe in anything. You only need to look deeply. And from that looking, understanding grows. From that understanding, compassion blooms. And from compassion, a quiet joy, a joy that doesn't depend on circumstances, that doesn't fade when storms come, that doesn't cling when sunlight breaks, a joy that simply is, rooted in presence, alive in awareness. So tonight, as the world slows and shadows lengthen, return to your own heart. Feel the breath. Feel the body. Notice the space around you, the silence between sounds. This is where compassion grows. This is where love breathes. Not from effort, but from being. You are not alone. You are not separate. You are a thread in the great tapestry of life, woven into the same fabric as the stars, the rivers, the strangers you've never met. Let that soften you. Let that strengthen you. And let your next breath be a blessing for yourself and for all beings. As your breath flows in and out softly and without force, we come closer now to the heart of what it means to walk this path, not merely as a philosophy, but as a lived, breathing way of being. This section is about presence, not just sitting in meditation, but living with awareness in each moment. The Buddha once said, "A moment of mindfulness is greater than 100 years lived without it." That is not poetry. It is truth carved from the quiet observation of life itself. Think of how we often move, hurried, distracted, caught in loops of thought. We are often not here. We are in yesterday's worry or tomorrow's plan. Rarely do we rest in the miracle of this breath, this sound, this very now. But mindfulness invites us back, again and again, to the warmth of the cup in our hands, to the soft rustle of wind beyond the window, to the rhythm of our footsteps as we walk. This is not trivial. This is liberation, because presence is the only place where life actually happens. The past is memory. The future is projection. But the present, it is the doorway to the sacred. The Buddha taught many ways to return to this moment. We can begin with the breath, the simple inhale, the gentle exhale, not controlled, just noticed. You're not doing the breath, it's doing you. And when you place your attention there, without striving, something shifts. The mind quiets, the heart opens. You begin to witness your experience rather than be swallowed by it. And from here, you can also observe the body, not with judgment, but with tenderness. How does the body feel? Where is there tension? What sensations arise? Each part of you becomes known not as an enemy, but as a home. And then the emotions. We so often fight them. I shouldn't feel this. I should be happier. But mindfulness says, let them be. Anger, sadness, joy, boredom. Each is a wave rising and passing. You don't have to hold them. Just witness. Just breathe. And then the thoughts, the endless stream, the plans, the stories, the fears. You don't have to stop them. Just watch them come and go, like clouds across an open sky. You'll notice something astonishing. The more you observe without grasping, the more space opens up. You are no longer lost in thought. You are the one noticing the thoughts. You are awareness itself. And in that space between stimulus and response lies your freedom. Freedom not to react. Freedom to choose. Freedom to respond with clarity, not compulsion. This is the deep gift of mindfulness. It's not about being perfect. It's not about constant bliss. It's about showing up fully. For this life, for your life, as it is. And this presence doesn't end on the cushion. It continues as you eat, walk, speak, work, rest. It becomes the thread that stitches each moment with meaning. Mindfulness is not separate from life. It is life, awake, alive, available. And slowly, gently, you'll notice the mind softening, the heart quieting. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped running. You came home. So tonight, let us sit again, not in effort, but in return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the sacredness of now. Let presence be your refuge. Let awareness hold you. And as the night deepens, may you rest not in escape, but in intimacy with what is. This moment, this breath, this life. Now that we've touched presence, let's gently move into something even deeper, the nature of impermanence. If there is one truth that quietly holds all of Buddhist understanding, it is this: everything changes. Everything. The joy that once filled your heart, the sorrow that once weighed it down, the people we love, the seasons of our lives, even the body you inhabit right now, breathing gently in this moment. Nothing remains the same. And yet how often we resist this truth. We hold on to what's fading. We push away what's arising. We grasp, we reject, we struggle. And suffering grows in the space between reality and our refusal to accept it. The Buddha did not teach impermanence to make us despair. He offered it as a key to unlock the tightness in our hearts, to show us how to be free. When we see clearly that all things arise and past something softens, the need to control, the fear of loss, the anxiety about the future, we begin to flow with life rather than fight it, like a leaf on the river, like a cloud drifting through a vast sky. Even pain, when held in this way, becomes bearable, because we know it will pass. This moment, no matter how heavy, is not forever. And joy, too, when held gently without clinging, becomes more radiant, because we're not trying to capture it. We're simply receiving it, like sunlight warming your skin for a passing moment, and letting it go when it fades. You may ask, but if everything changes, what can I rely on? And the answer is awareness. The silent presence within you that witnesses all things, that sees change but is not swept away by it. That presence is your refuge, not the body, not the mind, not the world, but the still, watching heart. This understanding invites us to live with a new kind of wisdom, to treasure what we have knowing it won't last, to love fully without attachment, to let go not because we don't care, but because we finally understand. Letting go is not giving up. It's giving in to the truth of what is. It's allowing life to move through you without resistance. And in that surrender, there is peace. You may lose people. You may lose moments. But the love remains. The memory remains. And even those too will change. And that's okay, because the river flows, and we flow with it. There's no need to dam the current. Just trust it. Just be with it. So tonight, as the silence deepens around you, feel into the truth of impermanence. Notice the breath as it comes and goes. Notice the sounds that rise and fade. Even the stillness is moving gently beneath your awareness. Let it be. Let it all be. You are not here to grasp. You are here to experience, to feel, to witness, to let life pass through you, like wind, through a bamboo grove, bending, rustling, and then still once more. And as you rest here, remember, everything changes. Everything passes. This too will pass. And in that truth, may your heart find its calm. May your breath deepen. And may the night carry you softly into sleep. With the understanding of impermanence gently holding our awareness, we now move to one of the most subtle and liberating realizations in Buddhism, the nature of emptiness, Shunyata. To many, this word can sound cold, even frightening. Empty. Does that mean nothing matters? That there's no meaning? But emptiness in the Buddhist sense is not about nihilism. It is about possibility. It is about openness. It is about the vast interdependent nature of reality, where nothing exists on its own, separate from everything else. Imagine a single lotus blossom, delicate, beautiful, whole. But if we look closely, we see that the flower does not exist by itself. Its life is made of sunlight, rain soil, time air, and countless unseen hands. The farmer who tilled the earth, the cloud that traveled across continents to become rain, the warmth of the sun from millions of miles away. All of these are present in the lotus. And so the Buddha said, nothing has an independent, unchanging self. All things arise because of other things. They are empty of a fixed identity, but full of connection. This is what makes emptiness so alive. It shows us that we are never isolated. We are always part of something greater. When you feel pain, it is not yours in some permanent separate way. It arises from conditions, stress loss, old wounds. And it can dissolve when those conditions change. When you feel joy, it too is not fixed. It is born from harmony. Health, love, a peaceful moment. Everything is like this, arising, changing, dissolving. And knowing this, you begin to hold things differently, less tightly, more tenderly. You begin to understand that people are not just the way they are. They are shaped by stories, by causes, by pain you cannot see. And so you forgive more easily. You soften your judgments. You become more curious, more kind. Emptiness does not make life meaningless. It makes it precious. Because everything is so fragile, so brief, so connected, you begin to see that even your thoughts are not solid. They come from somewhere conditioning memory habit. They are not you. They are weather passing through the sky of the mind. And so you learn not to be ruled by them. You learn to rest in awareness, even as thoughts flow like wind. This is freedom. To live from the space between grasping and pushing away. To dwell in the center of change and still feel peace. The Buddha once picked up a flower in silence. Only one of his disciples smiled. In that moment, a teaching beyond words was given. The flower was empty of fixed self, but full of everything. And so are you. So tonight, let yourself feel into this openness. Let go of the story of who you think you are. Let go of needing everything to be certain. Breathe into the space between thoughts. Rest in the quiet center where things arise and pass without struggle. You are not a separate thing. You are the field in which all things come and go. The space, not the content. And that space is infinite, unwounded, unbound. Let it hold you now. Let it carry you through the night, like moonlight on water, clear, weightless, and full of quiet beauty. As we continue walking this path together, gently step by step, the teachings begin to settle into a pattern not of rules, but of rhythms. And now we come to a practical unfolding of wisdom, the noble Eightfold Path. This path is not a rigid staircase. It's a circle, a spiral, a field. Each step nourishes the others. They move together, just like breath, body, and mind. And as we explore each one, you may feel them echo within your own life. The first is right view, not the correct opinion, but the ability to see clearly, to understand that actions have consequences, that life is impermanent, that suffering has causes and can be ended. Right view is not about dogma. It's about perspective. It's the gentle shift from, why is this happening to me, to what is this teaching me? Then comes right intention. The deep motivation of the heart. Not what you want to get, but what you wish to offer. Is your intention rooted in kindness, in compassion, in letting go? This shapes everything that follows. From here, we move into right speech. Words that heal, words that unite, words that are true, timely, and gentle. Sometimes right speech means saying something difficult with love. Sometimes it means staying silent when silence serves better than sound. Then there is right action. Not perfection, but integrity. A life where your values are lived, not just spoken. To refrain from harming. To offer help where you can. To walk with care in a world that is tender and fragile. Next is right livelihood. How do you support your life? Does it align with your heart, with peace, with compassion? The Buddha encouraged us to earn our way without causing suffering to others. This is not always easy, but each choice is an offering to yourself and to the world. Then comes right effort. This is not struggle. It is the gentle discipline of the heart, cultivating what is wholesome. Letting go of what is harmful. It's like tending a garden, not forcing, just removing weeds, watering seeds, waiting for sunlight. Then we come to right mindfulness. We've touched this already. It is the art of presence, of paying attention to the body, to the breath, to the mind, without clinging, without judging, just witnessing with warmth. And finally, right concentration. A focused, stable mind, not narrow, but deeply centered. This comes through meditation, through returning to the breath again and again, until the mind grows calm, still, vast. And in that stillness, you begin to see clearly, not just the world, but yourself, your patterns, your peace, your place in the great unfolding. The Eightfold Path is not something you conquer, it's something you live, a path that becomes part of you, a compass for your journey, not a destination, but a way. So tonight, as the rhythm of your breath steadies, feel into each of these steps. See where they already live in you, and where they ask to be invited in. This is not about being perfect. It's about being present, walking gently, living wisely, loving deeply. Let the Eightfold Path be your lantern in the night, not to chase shadows, but to walk softly through them, with courage, with care, with clarity. The Eightfold Path gently unfolds into the fabric of daily life, and through that lived experience, we come closer to understanding the Buddha's most radical gift, the end of suffering. Tonight, let us rest in the mystery and possibility of that promise. Because if suffering can end, not just for a moment, but at its root, then a life of true peace is not just a dream. It's something we can taste, breathe live. But how to understand that we turn inward to the workings of the mind. And here we meet one of the most intimate and transformative practices in Buddhism, observing craving. You see, the Buddha taught that suffering does not come from pain alone. Pain is part of life. But craving, the grasping, the aversion, the tightening, this is what turns pain into suffering. Imagine holding a hot coal. The coal is not the suffering. The suffering comes when you refuse to drop it. We crave pleasure. We resist discomfort. We chase the future. We replay the past. And in that tug of war, we suffer. But when we see the craving, not with judgment, but with awareness, it begins to soften. The Buddha described this clearly in the teaching of dependent origination. When there is ignorance, craving arises. When craving arises, clinging follows. From clinging comes becoming birth, aging, and death. A whole chain of suffering. But if we break one link, craving, the chain collapses. The momentum stops. Peace arises. This isn't abstract. You can feel it in your own life. Notice the last time you wanted something intensely. Not just an object, but a feeling. Approval. Control. Escape. Notice how tight your body became. How narrow your awareness grew. Now imagine breathing in that moment. Not acting on the craving. Just watching it like a wave. And letting it pass. There is your freedom. Moment by moment. This doesn't mean giving up everything. It means giving up the illusion that these things will complete you. It means living in the world, but with spaciousness. Holding joy, love, and beauty, not in a fist, but in open hands. This is the beginning of the end of suffering. Not by changing the world, but by changing your relationship to it. Letting go, not to lose, but to be free. And when freedom dawns, there is no longer a need to control. You begin to trust the flow. You become soft like water and strong like a mountain. You begin to see clearly and act wisely. Your words heal. Your silence comforts. Your presence becomes a refuge for others. And inside, there is a vastness, a peace, not dependent on conditions. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of nibbana, the unbinding, the extinguishing of craving, the end of fire, not a state of nothing, but a state of fullness, stillness, freedom. And perhaps you've touched this even briefly, in a moment of quiet, in a deep exhale, in a sunset that silenced your thoughts. Those moments are glimpses of the path, signposts, reminders that the peace you seek is already within you, covered not by problems, but by noise. When the noise quiets, the peace reveals itself. So tonight, let that be enough. Let your practice be simple, not to force awakening, but to make space for it, to sit, to breathe, to release the grip, and to remember you are not your craving. You are not your thoughts. You are not the pain. You are the awareness that sees all of it and holds it with love. And in that seeing, there is freedom. One breath at a time. When we begin to loosen the grip of craving something subtle yet extraordinary, begins to unfold contentment, not the fleeting kind that depends on things going our way, but a deep, grounded contentment that says this moment is enough. This breath is enough. You are enough. We often live as if peace lies just around the corner. If I can fix this, if I get that promotion, if they love me back. But Buddhism gently invites a different question. What if nothing needs to change in order for you to be at peace? What if the peace you long for is already here, beneath the noise of desire, fear, and comparison? There is a story in the Buddhist texts about a monk named Tissa. He had few possessions, wore ragged robes, slept under trees, but his face shone with serenity. Someone once asked him, "Are you not poor?" He smiled and said, "I have everything I need." Tissa's peace did not come from having more. It came from wanting less, from knowing how to be with what is. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop caring about life. It means we shift from restlessness to presence, from seeking to seeing. You begin to enjoy simple things again. The sound of birds before dawn, the warmth of tea in your hands, the quiet miracle of breath. And when the mind says, it's not enough, you smile gently and say, I see you. You breathe and return. This practice is sometimes called Santutthi in Pali gladness with what is. It is not denial, it's acceptance. And from that acceptance, deep joy can arise because you're no longer caught in the chase. You're here, fully, alive to the ordinary, which is always extraordinary when seen clearly. Contentment also brings freedom from comparison. How often we suffer by measuring ourselves against others. But everyone's path is different. The Buddha taught, do not compare. The lotus does not envy the rose. It simply blooms in its own time. And so can you. You may not be where you thought you'd be. You may not have all the answers. But you are here, breathing, listening, awakening. And that is enough. Truly enough. In fact, when we drop the need to improve every moment, we often find it improves on its own. A deeper calm settles in. A natural gratitude arises, not for extraordinary events, but for the simple fact of being, that you woke up this morning, that your heart beats without your asking, that the earth still holds you gently. When contentment deepens, you begin to share more freely, because there is no lack in you. You give without fear, love without conditions, rest without guilt. And when challenges come, as they always do, you meet them not with panic, but with presence. Because your center is not outside you, it is within. So tonight, let yourself arrive in this moment, not to fix it, just to be with it. Feel the breath, the stillness, the quiet life moving through you. And repeat softly, if it helps, this is enough. This breath is enough. I am enough. Let those words rock you into sleep, like a lullaby from your deepest self. When contentment roots itself deeply in your heart, something else begins to blossom quietly from within compassion. This is not the kind of compassion that feels like a duty or a performance. It is the natural flowering of a heart that is no longer cramped by fear or comparison. The Buddha, often described compassion not as something we have to create, but something we uncover. It's already there beneath layers of self-protection and distraction. And once it emerges, it softens everything. Even suffering becomes a doorway. You begin to see that pain is not something to hide from. It is a bond, a bridge, because what hurts in you has also hurt in others. The Buddha himself wept. He touched the ground under the Bodhi tree, and in that touch was a recognition. This suffering is shared. And because it's shared, we are never alone. Compassion begins with yourself. That may seem backwards, but unless you learn to hold your own wounds gently, you will struggle to hold others. So tonight, think of your own heart as a guest who has traveled a long way. Sit with it. Ask how it's doing. Be kind. Speak silently to your own sorrow, as you would to a dear friend. I see you. You're not a burden. You're part of my path. This is not self-indulgence. It is self-respect. From here, compassion extends outward, not in grand gestures, but in small, sincere moments. A quiet smile to a stranger, forgiving someone who never asked, listening without needing to fix. The Buddha called this Karuna, the trembling of the heart in the face of suffering. And when paired with wisdom, compassion becomes a powerful force. It does not mean rescuing everyone or absorbing their pain. It means walking beside them, holding their humanity, and trusting that presence is enough. There's a beautiful passage where the Buddha says, "Just as a mother protects her child with her life, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings." This is not metaphor, it's practice. You can sit and imagine this boundless love expanding from your chest. First to yourself, then to someone you love, then to someone you feel neutral about, then gently to someone who's hurt you, not to approve of their actions, but to free your own heart. Hate is heavy, compassion is light. You do not have to carry other people's stones, but you can walk beside them hand in hand. You can offer warmth. You can offer space. Sometimes, compassion is simply not turning away. And in that presence, healing begins. Not always visible, not always fast, but real and lasting. So tonight, let your breath be a cradle for compassion. Breathe in and know you are held. Breathe out and offer that holding to the world. A soft word, a quiet prayer, a moment of stillness. This is how the world changes. Not all at once, but breath by breath, from heart to heart. Let compassion guide you through the darkness. It will not make you weak. It will make you real. And real is what the world needs most. As compassion flows outward, it finds its companion in another precious quality, equanimity. If compassion is the warm hand reaching out, equanimity is the quiet strength that steadies it. It is the mountain beneath the wave, the stillness in the storm. The Buddha often described equanimity using the Pali word Upekkha, a deep, unwavering balance of mind. Not indifference, not detachment, but spaciousness. A heart wide enough to hold joy and sorrow without being shattered by either. Imagine a tree in the forest. Winds blow, seasons shift. Leaves fall, flowers bloom, but the roots remain grounded. That is equanimity. And like all deep qualities, it's not something you achieve once and for all. It's cultivated, moment by moment. When things go well, you smile, but don't cling. When things fall apart, you grieve, but don't drown. You breathe, you return. Equanimity is what allows compassion to remain clear, because without balance, compassion can become burnout. We want to help everyone. We want to heal everything, but we're human. We have limits. And it's okay to rest. It's okay to say no. It's okay to feel pain without collapsing into it. Equanimity honors the truth that life moves in cycles. Gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain, fame and obscurity. The Buddha called these the 8 worldly winds, and they blow through all lives, yours, mine, even his. But when you meet them with stillness, you're no longer at their mercy. You can feel the wind, but you don't have to be carried away. This is especially powerful in relationships because people will change. Love will ebb and flow, not because something is wrong, but because that's the nature of things. Equanimity doesn't harden you. It frees you. So you can love without fear, give without expectation, live without regret. In meditation, you might touch this space where the mind is quiet, the heart is vast. You observe thoughts like clouds, emotions like rain. They come, they go, and still you are here, breathing, present, safe. Some nights this may feel distant, like a star just beyond reach. But remember, even noticing your lack of equanimity is part of the path. You're learning, you're growing, and the path meets you exactly where you are. So tonight, if your heart feels heavy, place one hand over it. Breathe softly and whisper, "I can feel this," and still be steady. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your strength. Because true balance isn't about avoiding life's waves. It's about learning to ride them with grace, with breath, with gentleness, with peace. With equanimity as your anchor and compassion as your compass, you begin to walk through the world differently, not above it, but within it with wisdom and kindness woven into every step. And this brings us to a beautiful expression of Buddhist life, right livelihood. In the Eightfold Path, this teaching invites us to examine how we live in the world, not just in our thoughts or meditation cushions, but in our daily actions, especially our work. What we do to sustain ourselves, how we interact with others, the choices we make, not only for profit or progress, but for peace. The Buddha advised that right livelihood means earning a living in a way that does not cause harm. It's simple in concept, but profound in practice. We are asked to look gently, honestly. Does my work nourish or deplete the world? Does it align with my values? Does it allow me to sleep with a soft heart at night? This doesn't mean we all have to become monks or leave society. Not at all. It means waking up within our roles, whether we are teachers, builders, artists, caregivers, or farmers. A janitor sweeping with mindfulness may be closer to awakening than a CEO chasing endless gain. Because what matters is not the title, but the intention. Are you kind? Are you aware? Are you rooted in compassion? This is the way of the Bodhisattva, the one who walks the world with a vow to awaken not just for themselves, but for all. And you don't have to quit your job tomorrow to begin. You start by bringing presence into your work, a smile with a customer, a silent blessing over the task at hand, a refusal to cut corners if it brings harm. Even in a noisy world, these small acts are sacred. They shape your mind. And through your mind, they shape your karma. Because the Buddha reminds us every action is a seed, planted in the soil of this moment, watered by intention, and in time, it will bear fruit. That's why livelihood matters. It's not just a paycheck. It's a practice. It's an offering. And sometimes change comes slowly. You may realize your current work causes harm, but can't leave right away. That's okay. Awareness is the first step. Clarity will guide the rest. And along the way, you remember you are not alone. Many walk this path, trying, failing, learning, awakening. So tonight, let yourself rest in the beauty of sincerity, of doing your best, of making peace not only with your breath, but with your way of life. There's deep dignity in that, in living not for applause, but for truth. And when your life becomes your practice, even ordinary moments shine. Even your work becomes a blessing. Even your sleep becomes a prayer. As the rhythms of daily life continue to unfold, and as your livelihood becomes more aligned with your heart, another profound realization gently arises: the interconnectedness of all things. This is not just a poetic idea. It is the deep truth at the core of the Buddha's awakening. He saw that everything arises in dependence on everything else. No self exists in isolation. Not a leaf, not a thought, not even your sense of me. The Buddha called this paticcasamuppada, dependent origination. 12 links in a chain describing how suffering arises not randomly, but through causes and conditions. And when one part of the chain is loosened, awareness is brought in, the whole pattern can begin to dissolve. This understanding shifts how you see yourself, no longer a separate self drifting through a cold world, but a part of a vast living tapestry. Each breath shared with the trees, each word affecting someone's heart, each action echoing far beyond its moment. You begin to see how your joy touches others, how your suffering is never yours alone. There's a story the Buddha told about a man shot by an arrow. Before treating the wound, the man demanded to know who shot him, what the arrow was made of, what kind of bow it came from. But the Buddha gently said, "Wouldn't it be better to remove the arrow?" In other words, don't get lost in the abstraction. Look at the suffering, understand its causes, and then begin to free yourself. Interconnectedness also means that healing is never just individual. When you heal, you become safer for others. When you awaken even a little, you light the path for someone else. It could be your child, your neighbor, someone you'll never meet, but who will feel the kindness you left behind like a soft breeze. This truth also dissolves hatred. When we see others as separate, it's easier to judge. But when we see them as part of ourselves, flawed, wounded, trying, our hearts soften. You might remember this when someone frustrates you. They are part of the web, just like you. Learning, struggling, awakening, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but always changing, always connected. This is not just philosophy, it's freedom. Because if we are connected, we can begin to care more deeply for the earth, for animals, for future generations, and we can trust that our small efforts matter, that even a quiet act, a kind glance, a whispered blessing becomes a thread in the great fabric of peace. So tonight, as you lie back and breathe, feel into this web. Feel how your body rests on the bed, how the bed rests on the floor, how the floor rests on the earth, and how the earth in her quiet patience holds us all. You are not alone. You never were. And this is not a burden. It is a blessing. To be connected, to be needed, to be held in the arms of life itself. Now breathe in and breathe out, and let that truth settle like starlight in your chest. When you truly begin to live in the awareness of interconnectedness, the world stops being a backdrop. It becomes alive, sacred. The trees you pass on the street are not just decorations, they are breathing, witnessing, offering shelter. The rain is not just weather, it is nourishment falling from the sky. The people you encounter are not obstacles or extras in your story. They are fellow travelers, caught in the same mysterious dance of joy and sorrow. This awareness transforms the ordinary into the holy. And from this sacred vision arises something very tender gratitude, not the kind you force, not a checklist of things to be thankful for, but a soft opening of the heart to what is. Gratitude becomes a way of seeing. You begin to notice what has always been there, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the silence between sounds, the way your body, even when aching, still carries you. And gratitude turns even suffering into a teacher. Because in the moments when we are stripped bare, we learn to cherish what remains, to see the miracle in a single kind word, a gentle breeze, a quiet meal. The Buddha once said that when we truly understand the gift of life, we will feel as though we found treasure. Not because everything is perfect, but because we see clearly nothing is owed to us, and yet everything is given. This is the paradox of the path. The more we let go of craving, the more we receive. The more we accept impermanence, the more precious each moment becomes. Gratitude also dissolves resentment. It's hard to grasp tightly and be grateful at the same time. So we soften, we breathe, and we whisper, "Thank you," not as a performance, but as a prayer. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for this fleeting, shining moment. Gratitude doesn't deny the darkness. It simply doesn't let the darkness have the final word. Even in pain, there can be beauty. Even in confusion, clarity can emerge. Even in endings, something new can be born. And when we remember this, our hearts open, not just to joy, but to life. All of it, as it is. Tonight, let this gratitude hold you. Let it wash over the day's worries like a gentle tide. You did your best. The world turned. Your heart kept beating. You are here. That is enough. Place your hand on your heart. If it helps, feel the rhythm. Feel the life. And let this quiet voice rise within. I am grateful for now. For all that came. For all that stayed. For all that left. And for the stillness that remains. Let that stillness carry you into rest. Let it be your soft landing. Let it be your home. From gratitude, the heart naturally drifts towards something deeper still, forgiveness. It may seem unexpected, but it is the next gentle step on this inward journey. Because once you begin to see how interconnected everything is, once you start to feel grateful for even the smallest breath, the sharp edges of old pain begin to soften. Not because the pain didn't matter, but because you matter more than the weight you've carried. Forgiveness in the Buddhist path is not a transaction. It's not about who deserves it. It's about freeing the heart. The Buddha never asked us to forget or excuse harmful actions. Instead, he taught us to let go of the grasping mind, the mind that clings to what was replaying it again and again like a wheel stuck in mud. Imagine holding a burning coal waiting to throw it at someone, but all the while, it's your hand that burns. That's what resentment does. It promises justice, but delivers only suffering. Forgiveness says, I choose peace. I choose my own healing. And it begins not with others, but with ourselves. We hold so many regrets, so many silent accusations against our own hearts. I should have known better. I should have been stronger. I should have said something, or nothing. And yet the Buddha reminds us, what's done is done. What matters now is how gently we hold what remains. Tonight you might try this. Think of something you've carried for too long, a moment you wish you could erase. Now with your breath, surround it in light, not to deny it, but to soothe it. Say silently, that was a moment of pain, but it does not define me. Feel how that loosens the grip. And then when you're ready, turn toward others. someone who's hurt you. Not to say it was okay, but to say, I release you from the power to hurt me now. That is strength. That is grace. And sometimes it takes time. Forgiveness is not a staircase. It's a spiral. You return to the same place again and again, each time with a little more space, a little more softness. And the beauty is even your effort to forgive is enough. Each breath that moves toward peace leaves a mark on the world. Each sigh of release lightens your body, your heart, your sleep. So tonight, if there is something or someone you cannot yet forgive, that's okay. Just don't close the door. Leave the window open. Let the wind of compassion move through. Let the night cradle you in its quiet mercy. And if you can whisper gently to yourself, I forgive what I can. And for the rest, I'll try again tomorrow. As forgiveness settles in the heart, like dew on morning grass, something else begins to blossom: contentment. Not the fleeting satisfaction that comes from getting what we want, but a steady, gentle presence, a quiet joy that doesn't rely on changing the world, but on meeting it as it is. The Buddha often spoke of Santutthi, the pleasure of contentment. He said that a person who is content even with little is truly rich. And isn't that what we all long for? Not more things, not more noise, but a life that feels enough, a heart that doesn't hunger constantly, a mind that can rest. Contentment doesn't mean we don't have preferences. It means we're not enslaved by them. It means we can enjoy a warm cup of tea without needing it to be perfect. We can rest in silence without needing constant stimulation. We can look around our life and say, not in resignation, but in reverence, this is enough. But in a world that screams more contentment is radical. We are conditioned to chase, to compare, to strive, and so we suffer. Because there is no finish line in that race. There is only more, and still more. But tonight, you're invited to step off the wheel, to sit quietly and look around, not at what's missing, but at what is. Your breath, your body, the softness of the pillow, the whisper of this voice in your ears. This moment is enough. And when you really enter it, you might find that what you were chasing has always been here. Peace is not hidden, it's just quiet. So quiet that we often miss it in our rush. But not tonight. Tonight you can pause, you can listen, you can receive. And if thoughts of what's next arise, just smile at them. They too are part of the dance, but they don't have to lead. You can choose the stillness, the simplicity, the sacredness of just being. And from that stillness, joy arises. Not explosive, not dramatic, but deep, stable, kind, like a candle that doesn't flicker even in the wind. That's the joy of contentment. It cannot be bought, only noticed, only welcomed. So let it in now. Let it fill your chest like soft moonlight. Let it remind you this breath is enough. This night is enough. You are enough. When contentment begins to take root, something subtle yet powerful emerges, a natural letting go. Not because you force it, but because peace reveals what no longer needs to be held. The Buddha taught this again and again. All things are impermanent. All things are changing. And all clinging leads to suffering. But letting go is freedom. You felt it before. In the release of a long-held breath, in the soft closing of a chapter, in the quiet relief when you no longer need to be right. Letting go is not a rejection. It is an honoring of change. It is saying, this has served its purpose. Now I release it. And this can apply to many things. Old habits, unrealistic expectations, the idea of who you thought you should be, even the craving for awakening itself. Yes, sometimes even the spiritual path becomes another thing to grasp, another achievement, another identity. But the Dharma, at its core, is about release, not adding more, but subtracting, not becoming someone else, but uncovering what has always been pure, awake, and free. This doesn't mean we abandon life. It means we embrace it more fully without needing it to fit our design. It's like holding sand. The tighter the grip, the more it slips away. But when the hand opens, the sand can rest gently in the palm. This is the art of letting go. It is not always instant. It is a daily invitation. Sometimes we let go and then grasp again. That's okay. Let that be part of the path. The Buddha spoke of nibbana, the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. And each time we let go of even a little craving, we taste a bit of that coolness, that peace, that stillness. Tonight, you might ask yourself gently, what am I holding that I no longer need? And not everything will be ready to release. That's okay. Even naming it is a step. Even breathing into it brings space. And with each breath, you trust what is meant to stay will stay. What is meant to leave will leave. You are not the controller of life. You are its witness, its participant, its lover. And the more you let go, the lighter you feel, the softer you become, the closer you are to the freedom the Buddha saw under the Bodhi tree. So now lie back, breathe out, and feel what it's like to not need to hold everything together. You are supported by the earth, by the Dharma, by this moment. Let go and rest. From letting go arises something so gentle, so profound, it almost slips past unnoticed trust, a quiet trust in the path, in the unfolding of your life, in the truth that even in uncertainty, something deep within you knows the way. The Buddha often compared this journey to crossing a river. We use the raft of the Dharma to cross, but once we reach the other shore, we no longer carry the raft on our back. We trust we have arrived. And in the same way, trust is not blind belief. It is earned. It is built slowly, one breath, one insight, one act of courage at a time. You trust because you have seen. You have tasted peace in the pause. You have touched stillness in the letting go. And so now the mind no longer scrambles to fix everything. It rests. The heart no longer clutches in fear. It opens because you have remembered something ancient, something that was never really lost. The Buddha called it the unconditioned. Not a place, not a God, not a reward, but a state of being beyond striving, beyond becoming. Just this, just here. And from this trust, life changes. You are no longer at war with what is. You begin to live with what some call wise surrender. It doesn't mean giving up. It means giving into the deeper rhythm to the Dharma that flows through all things, like a river finding its way to the sea. And the beauty of trust is that it carries you when you can't carry yourself. There will be days of doubt, of sorrow, of forgetting. But trust whispers, it's okay. Come back to the breath, back to the stillness, back to the tender truth that you are not alone. You are held by the teachings, by the practice, by your own willingness to keep walking, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So tonight, as your body sinks into rest, let yourself lean into that trust. Let it be the ground beneath you. Let it be the space around you. Let it be the lullaby that sings you into silence. You have done enough for today. You are exactly where you need to be. all is unfolding in its own time, in its own way. And in this trust, may you rest well. And now, as we near the end of this gentle unfolding, one truth rises quietly above all: you are already home. The Buddha's path does not lead somewhere else. It leads right here, to this breath, to this moment, to this quiet awareness that sees without judgment, listens without fear, and rests without craving. For so long, we imagine that awakening is a distant mountain, that peace is far away. But again and again, the Buddha pointed back to the body, to the heart, to the now. This is the path, he said, purify the mind. Not in some grand dramatic way, but slowly, tenderly, through watching, through listening, through loving what is without needing it to change. Awakening is not a lightning bolt. It's a soft dawn that brightens slowly. It is the silence after a storm. It is the ease that returns when we finally stop running. And it is available to all. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to become a monk. You simply need to remember. Remember the stillness that lives beneath your thoughts, the kindness that lives beneath your defenses, the truth that lives beneath your stories. And remember this: you are not broken. You are not behind. You are the sky, and your thoughts just passing clouds. The Buddha once said, "There is no fire like lust, no grip like hatred, no net like delusion, no river like craving. And yet all of these can be met with compassion. All of them can be transformed through awareness, through softness, through love. That is the path, not a battle, but a return, not a punishment, but a liberation." And so here we are, at the end of this journey, but not the end of yours. The truth of Buddhism is not just to know, it is to live, to walk each step with mindfulness, to greet each moment with compassion, to meet the world not with fear, but with openness. And tonight, as you lie in the soft glow of understanding, remember, the path is always here. With every breath, you can begin again. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Everything belongs. So rest now, dear one. Let the teachings soak in like gentle rain. Let the night hold you in its arms, and know you are loved. You are free. You are home. And now, dear listener, we begin to close this chapter together. You've come so far, not just in words, but in stillness, in the soft opening of the heart, in the gentle unraveling of what no longer needs to be held. Let the quiet settle now. Let it seep into your bones like warm tea on a cold night. The Buddha never promised that life would be easy, but he showed us that it could be lived with clarity, with compassion, with presence. You are not who you were when you began. Even if you can't feel it yet, something within you has shifted. Perhaps only slightly, but enough. Enough to remember that the path is not something to achieve, but something to relax into. So tonight, may you let go of needing to get it right. May you trust the rhythm of your own unfolding. And may you sleep not to escape, but to integrate, to restore, to return. Let the breath be soft now. Let the body melt into the bed. Let the heart whisper its quiet truths. All is well. All is unfolding. All is held in the vastness of this present moment. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.